everybody, I'm NinjaX the Enlightened Gamer. A lot of you are probably really confused as to what you're looking at right now. A lot of you were probably expecting episode 22 of Twilight Princess, where we would go off to the Lakebed Temple. But something happened in the last episode that was a first occurrence that will be happening in the future of this show. A lot of you who know my show know that I run 3 shows on this channel: NinjaX, Ninjoside, and Enlightened Vlogs. Each of these shows serves its own purpose, but as I've discovered with X, sometimes with the Let's Play format there simply isn't enough time for me to discuss a certain event or a certain moment in a game as much as I'd like to. So for that, I introduce you to the show within the show, Ninja Token. Ninja Token is a show set aside within X that will allow me to explain and elaborate on extremely artistic moments in video games. Now, these moments are relatively rare, even in the games that I play, so don't expect this show to be cropping up too much or with any warning. That's part of the beauty of it. What you're looking at specifically are 3 of the Jinjo tokens. The idea taken from Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts. Each token represents a different form of artistic expression, as is showed by the chart here. More specifically, the 3 tokens that were chosen for this episode of Token were the orange token of greed, the chocolate token of ancestry, and the gray token of loss. While we discuss the Lanayru vision from the end of episode 21. First things first, let's give that vision a watch from the episode with my original commentary intact. When all was chaos, the goddesses descended and gave order and life to the world. They granted power equally to all who dwelt in the light, and then returned to the heavens. The lands where the goddess descended became known as the Sacred Realm. For ages, the people lived at ease, content in mind and body. But soon, word of the Sacred Realm spread through Hyrule, and a great battle ensued. Among those living in the light, interlopers who excelled at magic appeared. Wielding powerful sorcery, they tried to establish dominion over the Sacred Realm. Yeah. It was then that the goddess ordered us 3 light spirits to intervene. We sealed the great magic those individuals had mastered. You know this magic. It is the dark power you seek, the fused shadow. O hero chosen by the goddess, beware. Those who do not know the danger of wielding power will, before long, be ruled by it. Never forget that. The dark power that you seek is within the sleeping lakebed temple in Lake Hylia. Now onto the explanation. First, I'll break down the simple story elements, then we'll get a little bit deeper. The story begins with a very abridged version of the story of the creation of Hyrule, told to Link by young Zelda in Ocarina of Time near the beginning of the story. There is quite a bit of symbolism in this, but we'll address that in a few moments. There's really not much to touch on here in terms of the story, except for one thing. That an added detail is that the goddesses spread power amongst the living creatures equally. People were happy for a time, but eventually word about the Triforce went out, and, well, people started fighting over it, fighting over power, fighting over who would obtain it and who would dominate the sacred realm. The continuation of the story from this point reveals several characters portrayed as Dark Link that have found through some unknown means a way of acquiring enough power to dominate all other forms of life. Seeing the delicate balance that they had instilled in the world that they created, the three goddesses Din, Nayru, and Furor sent 3 light spirits, incarnations of themselves with a large amount of power against the forces of darkness, to seal away the secret that had broken the balance of power and the people that had discovered it. At last, the story finally comes to a close with a warning about the consuming power that you are pursuing, that about all power's ability to consume your mind and drive your actions. Those who find power fear only one thing: losing that power. Now that we've finally finished the story breakdown for this review, I think it's finally safe to move on to some of the details. Very first, really quick before I even start this, I'm going to say I didn't do extensive research for these details. This is all just my own ability to unravel what I think is there. And there could be information out there that proves or disproves what I'm about to say. In my opinion, unraveling a piece of art, especially a piece of abstract art like this, is something that can only be done from person to person. It's not a logical thing. First, in our analysis breakdown, let's look at the thematic item that's always at the center of almost every Zelda game, with only a few exceptions: the Triforce. The Triforce is no simple collection of 7 Dragon Balls. It's no simple collection of 7 Chaos Emeralds. The Triforce is something I believe far more. Everyone who has come into contact with the Triforce has been immortalized in some way. I believe that the Triforce is a sign left by the goddesses for their children to join them as immortal beings. That's why the goddesses had to leave the world. And it's hinted at some in Skyward Sword, where you revisit the tale of the goddesses a lot. That the reason the goddesses couldn't stay in Hyrule is because they had too much power. Their very presence, positive or negative, would have thrown the balance that they had carefully crafted well out of whack. You think adding the Triforce itself did damage? Imagine if Din, Furor, and Nayru were all still wandering around on Hyrule commanding legions. Yeah! Up next in our analysis, we have the appearance of an unusual person here. Now, this confused me a lot at first. Why did they choose Ilia to appear, not only standing beside Link, but before Link and more than once in the vision? I believe that she symbolizes Link's innocence. That her presence is a shadow of simpler, happier times. In the very next scene, things seem to take a turn for the worst. First, tempted by the power of the Triforce, Ilia turns on Link. But even as she prepares to betray him, he strikes her down, presumably kills her. This is incredibly symbolic and was very confusing and very dark, but I'm going to try and explain some of it. As I said before, Ilia symbolizes innocence in this series of hallucinations. Her turning on Link shows that even somebody with a pure heart or an innocent mind, when tempted by power, may be turned. Then Link striking her down symbolizes that when you ignore your past to pursue power, that you cut away your innocence from your soul. It forces you to change. In this next scene, we come across the sorcerers. Finally, the creators, or at least the wielders of the fused shadow, have a face. And it's our face. There's so much symbolism packed into this little moment of this little reveal. The very first thing to note is that they use Dark Link to portray the sorcerers. Why Dark Link? What is Dark Link? Believe it or not, Dark Link is not evil. Dark Link is an extreme reflection of Link. Dark Link is Link out of balance. A Link that is consumed with his own ego. Where is this revealed in the Zelda lore? It's actually never revealed canonically within the Zelda lore, as far as I can tell. But it is revealed in Hyrule Warriors. Big shout out to that game. They did more than teach a few people how what the correct pronunciations for things in the Zelda universe are. And it actually has a surprisingly deep story, but I'm gonna put that on the back burner for now because I don't have a Wii U. Anyways, the next thing you note is that the piece of the fused shadow that's being used to swallow up the Triforce is Midna's headdress. Why is that there? At this point, the sorcerers only need to hold out their arms to obliterate what Link once was and permanently make him one of them. This is the addiction of power being portrayed. That it not only changes who you are in the present, but it erases who you have been. Turns you into what it wants you to be. A sword has no power unless the hand that holds it has courage. A sword has no power unless the hand that holds it has courage, because it is the man that drives the sword, not the other way around. If the sword should drive the man, then it is weak. In the next scene is when things started to really get confusing for me, because we three light spirits were commissioned by the goddess to seal away the dark power that these sorcerers had mustered. Well, first off, there are 4 light spirits, and second off, as we'll find in the very next scene, there are 4 pieces of fused shadow. So why did the light spirit Ordana not seal away the 4th and final piece of fused shadow? I think I have an answer to this, and it's actually already been revealed to us, so I don't have to spoil it. We know that Midna wears a piece of the fused shadow. Her powers are telekinesis and body augmentation. If you look at Midna, you see that the thing on the back of her head isn't a giant hand, it's her hair. She changes her hair into that convenient shape so that she can attack enemies and help lead Wolf Link into different areas. So the abilities of the fused shadow must be mental and physical augmentation. Well, Midna holds one of the pieces of the fused shadow, so it stands to reason that these banished sorcerers are her people. Which brings to question why only the headrest of the fused shadow was left behind. We've seen the effects of the Shadow Realm on those who walk in the light, and it's very specific in this vision in saying that the interlopers, or the sorcerers, were from the Light Realm originally. If they had been banished to the realm of Twilight, which is where they draw their power, then they would have wandered for all time as spirits doomed to never hope to improve themselves or learn from their mistakes. Ancestors, descendants, all equally punished by the actions of a few. Now, I don't believe that the goddesses intended for this punishment to be permanent or irreversible. But that's in the spirit Ordona and the final fourth piece of the fused shadow. The fused shadow allows you to alter your body. The only reason Zelda was unaltered in the Twilight Realm and Link was only slightly altered is because they possess the spirit of the Triforce of Wisdom and Courage. The sorcerers wouldn't have any such power. The only power that would allow them to survive would be the power of Twilight within the final piece of the fused shadow. So the goddesses let them leave with just enough of their power intact to survive, but not enough to mutiny. Though even still, as a precaution, the light spirits summoned the guardian Ordana to watch over the Ordon Woods. At last, we reach the end of this vision. The end of the vision, which features Ilia and many other Ilias spiraling upside down, head first, into an abyss, laughing. This is easily the most surreal and disturbing thing in this early portion of the game. Well, at least in this vision. But what does it mean? I already told you that it's a warning about power, but what is it specifically warning you about and why? It all goes back to Ilia representing innocence. When you destroy your innocence in pursuit of power, your past, who you once were, once joyful memories of laughter, togetherness, family, and friends become haunting cackles in the confines of your now corrupted and ruined mind. That's why there are so many Ilias, is because each one represents a different joyful memory that now is merely haunting laughter. I hope you all enjoyed this abstract and intense look at a very disturbing and very surreal piece of artwork within this game. If I have one piece of advice to give you all, one token of my wisdom, if you will, it would be, don't discount something as just weird. Investigate, research, think, and reflect. Always look for more, whether it be in your daily life or in the works of others. And you won't be disappointed. I hope you enjoyed this very first Ninja token. Until next time, I've been NinjoX the Enlightened Gamer. Keep an open mind, and as always, stay enlightened.